It was a Week 9 that has a lot of storylines now, but none bigger than the one here in Philadelphia all of a sudden. Yes, the Eagles won. Yes, we'll break it down. But first, KC Joyner, NFL Insider, joins us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. KC, they haven't had Deshaun Jackson all season long, but it seems that they were hoping he'd come back. What is the best way for them to pick up the pieces now moving forward with what they have?
I was watching a couple of days ago the New England Patriots Do Your Job series, the one that NFL film series, and last year's edition had Josh McDaniels saying that late last season, that they had wanted to be a pass-first team. They wanted to be a spread offense, and Belichick came in and told them, what do we do best? And they were like, power run the ball. I said, that's what we're going to do. They accepted who they were instead of saying, this is what we want to be. I think the Eagles have been thinking, we want to be this vertical team. Jackson's going to be back any week now. He's going to come back. He's going to come back. He's going to come back. Even with this recent injury, it's like, okay, maybe he'll be back after the bye. No, look, that's not, he's gone, and you shouldn't have ever expected him to be back in your offense, and you need to accept what you are, which is a team that can call people open deep, but you need to power run the football because that's what you're really good at. So accept what you are and then try to be what you're not.
Yeah, I know a lot of people around here would say, look, you got two really good tight ends. Can you go 12 personnel? Can you win consistently like that?
Absolutely, because you've got tight ends. A lot of teams, if they go 12, they're going to have to pass the football. They don't have a second tight end who can catch. Look, both of your tight ends can catch. We're worried about Ertz. Not worried about Ertz yesterday. Fantasy managers are going crazy after what happened with him yesterday. But, if you're talking on-the-field presence as well, Goddard can do both. He can block well enough, if you don't ask him to block Khalil Mack like they did yesterday, but he can block well enough, and you can use him in the passing game, so you can do a number of things with that. Yeah, I would go 12 because that gets your best players on the field and gives you the best chance to power run the ball and throw out of that.
They ran the ball really well yesterday against a Bears team. Now, you had said Friday the Bears can be run on. We saw it yesterday, but were you impressed with some of the play design, some of the play call in the run game?
I was, because I can't get too mad at them for what happened with Goddard versus Khalil Mack, because Khalil Mack dominated him. He drew a holding penalty. I believe he beat him on 3 one-on-one blocks, and then they had another time where Matt Collins got called for a holding penalty. If you take those plays out, which are plays that you shouldn't expect to win anyway, you take those out, that's like a 65% good blocking rate in this matchup, and they did it in a variety of ways. Because again, Chicago likes to be this really pursuit defense. They're not a defense that likes to beat you straight line of scrimmage. They're a team that, okay, we're gonna run after the ball, we're gonna try and shoot the gaps, things of that nature. And the Eagles just didn't let them get off and tee off and do that. And I really like the way that they set that offense up.
Yeah, yesterday you got 19 carries for Howard, 10 from Sanders. Overall, they go 35 for 146, and obviously a lot of that they get with late in the game. They ran the ball late. A second week in a row, they were able to, fourth quarter drive to seal the deal. How impressive was that?
I like it, and I like that. It was, you look back at the Buffalo game a couple weeks ago, and late in the game, they're going 6 offensive linemen. They bring in an offensive lineman. They go an unbalanced front. They bring in 2 tight ends. So they're getting an 8-man front, but they're getting just tons of power out there. And they were successful against Buffalo. They were successful going big against Chicago. And I keep looking at that going, okay, guys, you've got the line to do it. You've got the depth at lineman to do it. You've got multiple backs who can carry the ball. If you want to get Clement back in and get him back in too, and Sproles is healthy now, you could do a lot of things out of that. You want to run him out of a power set, but still, the idea that, you can do those things. I like the idea that, hey, go ahead and lean heavily on the ground game because you've got the personnel to do that. Be what you are.
I don't know how you can really describe what we saw from the Eagle defense. Were they good, or is Mitchell Trubisky – I know you like Trubisky, but he was bad yesterday.
I like the college version of Trubisky and the early last year version of Trubisky. The yesterday's version – I got the impression both their passing game and their ground game, especially in the first half, they don't trust their offensive line. Their running backs don't trust their offensive line to get the blocks. They try and say, we're going to go and get yards ourselves. We're going to try and create yards individually instead of trusting our blocks. You can never do that. That's always a bad idea. And Trubisky, he was continually throwing off of his back foot, even when pressure wasn't there. And even the big play he got early in the second half, they rolled him out of the pocket so that he knew, okay, I don't have pressure near me and I can just step into this throw. It was like one of the only times in the game he stepped into a throw. And if you're continually throwing off your back foot, even when your blocking is good, it's a terrible sign. So they need to either convince him the offensive line is better or make the offensive line better or do a number of things, because as long as he and the running backs don't trust the offensive line, this is going to keep up.
You got pressure yesterday. I mean, they had a lot of pressure. You had Graham with a sack, a tackle and a half for loss. Camus had a tackle for loss. Avery had a sack and a tackle for loss as he came over from Cleveland. I mean, they look like they got a lot more pressure, but a lot of that could be the Bears' offensive line.
Some of it was the Bears' offensive line. They got 6 quarterback hits, 6 different players got quarterback hits too, so it was all over the place. And I think the Eagles were saying we're going to put pressure on this offensive line. We're going to get after them, or even if we're not putting pressure, we're going to make them think we're putting pressure. So it was a weak spot. I didn't expect the Bears' offensive line to excel in this contest, but when I saw that the skill players don't trust the offensive line, I think the Eagles probably picked up on that too and said, we know we can do things to limit their offense just by making the offensive line sometimes think there's pressure where there isn't, which when you can do that, then you get a double win.
All right. Now, so how disappointing. They only scored 12 points early. They had the opportunity to punch it in more, but you could make it 2 arguments. You're disappointed they didn't score more, or, hey, the Bears have a pretty good defense. The fact that you had 12, hey, you did a nice job. Which side of the fence would you sit on that?
If you're going to run a power running offense, you sometimes have to accept the idea that you're not going to be a high scoring team, and especially once you get down close. Because if you get down close and you're trying to use power, and the other team just says, "Fine, we're going to put 8-9 guys in the box, and we're going to match hat for hat." If you do that, once that happens, and you can't spread the field, it can be a lot more difficult to get things going. So, I still think, remember, talent-wise, you're talking about a Bears defense that's still they're not getting the most out of their talent of late, and they're being run on far too often because they're just not the kind of power. They don't have a power defense to handle the run, but still, talent-wise, it's a very good defense. So I'm still looking at the Eagles going, given what their offense was, I still would have liked a little more points, obviously, but I think they should be happy with what they got.
All right. Overall, 5-4 at the midway point for Philadelphia. What you see on tape from this team, do you feel like there's positive vibes moving forward, or do you look at a 5-4 team at the bye and say, too many questions to be answered?
If they want, again, if they'll be who they should be, if they'll say we're going to go ahead and be the power running team that we should be, because I'm looking at the rest of the schedule and I measure matchups by red, yellow, green. Red is unfavorable, yellow is okay, green is favorable. I look at the run defenses over the last 7 weeks of the season. 3 red-rated run defenses, including one that's New England, that maybe that run defense isn't that strong after what we saw yesterday, and 4 of them are green. So there was just 4 highly favorable run defense matchups, and if New England turns out to be a better matchup, it could be 5 favorable matchups. So I'm looking at that going, that says who you should be. If they'll decide we want to be that on offense and adjust to that on defense and say that's the kind of game plan we need to, they'll be fine. If they keep trying to be something they're not, it's not going to matter.
All right, let's look at Week 9 and see what else happened around the league. Plus, we'll look at tonight's Monday night matchup. KC Joyner, NFL Insider, here on the Sports Bash. One thought on each game, what they all mean. And, all right, the Texans win in London. Jacksonville had a rough day at the office, but that Houston team's tough to figure out.
They are, but they're such a big play team, and you can see where they have so many ways to get big plays in that team without Will Fuller on their offense. So they're able to do that. Speaks a lot. And Jacksonville, I don't know. I'm looking at Minshew yesterday going, that's a good defense, but they just don't have J.J. Watt, and you're doing that well. So I'm thinking Nick Foles might get back in line after all.
Buffalo wins. They had a big spread, and a lot of people were like, I don't see it. But Buffalo defense comes back. They hold the Redskins to just 9 points. They win 24-9. They get to 6-2.
They do, and their offense is still more dynamic than people give it credit for. They're not going to be a passing team, but Brown is a very good receiver, and I think they've got some more downfield threats. And Josh Allen, he's running that offense the way he should, which says a lot, because a lot of quarterbacks could push back against that. He's accepted this is what we are, and as long as he keeps accepting that, they're double-digit win team.
Vikings lose again against a winning record team on the road. Chiefs get another win with Matt Moore. They get to 6-3. What did we learn in this one?
We learned that Andy Reid is, as he's shown many times in the past, maybe the best play caller in the NFL if you give him a backup quarterback and say you've got to find something that quarterback can do. That I saw somewhere on that somebody saying there's going to be a Matt Moore, there's going to be some sort of quarterback controversy there. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's no quarterback controversy. Yeah, but that Moore can do that well. Hey, take your time getting Mahomes back, because if you got a quarterback winning like that, no need to rush him.
Dolphins get their first win of the year. I mean, Adam Gase, does he make it through the year?
I don't think he does. I think he may actually get fired. And I got to give credit to Flores because that team quit in week 1, and he got them to turn around, and they've been playing hard all the last few weeks. I got to give him a ton of credit for keeping that team together. And Gase is losing his team. And if he does lose his team, and it looks like it might be that, you can't judge it after one game, but if he does lose his team, you got to let him go because you never get over that.
By the way, big game by Southern Regional tight end Mike Gesicki, 6 catches, 95 yards for the Penn State grad. Steelers. People saw that line, and I was like, come on, man, don't do it. Well, the Steelers showed you why. They got the win over the probably more talented Colts team.
Yep, and I picked them. It was a tough call. I picked them to win that contest because I just thought that Indianapolis wouldn't fare well against the Pittsburgh defense, which is playing exceptionally well. Minka Fitzpatrick, 96-yard return. I think Indianapolis still might have won that game if not for the backup quarterback, because the backup quarterback throws, 3 touchdown passes, so it speaks well for them. But Pittsburgh still is in the playoff hunt. People better not forget about them because they've got a defense and a running game, and that's the way they usually want to play football.
Panthers 5-3. Don't forget about them. They beat that Titans team. McCaffrey with a MVP kind of day.
Oh, it was so scary when he got tackled on that one touchdown and he went into the blue tent. And I thought, oh, no, did he roll an ankle or something? They just checked him for concussion, it looks like. And he's fine, so fantasy managers can breathe a sigh of relief. They'll be back next week. But, hey, again, we keep seeing this in the NFL, that power running and being a power running team, it's always worked in NFL history, and it's still working today. As long as CMC is doing what he's doing, they're going to keep winning.
The Raiders climb to 500. The Lions drop under 500. But what do we like about the Raiders now as we get to the halfway point of the season?
Josh Jacobs can pound the ball, and they are willing to lean on him. And Carr is playing, I think he's playing the best he's played in the NFL. He looks very comfortable. He doesn't have a great receiving core, but they've got, he's got Williams, and then he's got that tight end. He's got some really good players there. He's got Waller at tight end. So
yep.
I think that they're very good there. The Lions, though, the Lions need to stop getting into these shootout games. That's not what Patricia wanted to do coming into the season, and they can't keep from getting into those contests. If they can't keep getting those contests, they're going to keep losing them like they did.
Seahawks, it was a fun one, 40-34, back and forth. Tampa Bay just can't get a win, but a lot of offensive firepower. But the Seahawks get to 7-2. Russell Wilson, 378, 5 touchdowns. I had him in fantasy. Big day for the Seahawks.
Yeah, big day for the Seahawks. Big day for Russell Wilson, who right now would be the MVP. If I had an MVP vote, he'd be the guy I'd vote for. He's playing exceptionally well. And again, we keep coming back to Winston. Winston made only one egregious error yesterday, but in a game like that, one egregious error makes a difference. So unless he starts correcting those, Tampa's going to keep getting these high-scoring games they lose.
Did anybody know the Broncos have a better record than the Browns? Yeah, all the hoopla around Cleveland. They got beat yesterday in Denver. We talked about it on the show that Denver's not the best road game when you're facing against a bad, a team that's not very good, and Cleveland has just fallen apart. What's happened out there?
Isn't it terrible? I mean, they lose the game to a quarterback who's making his first start. Their free safety gets in a fight with gets in an argument with one of his own guys and the radio guys in his team, and threatens him and gets banned from Twitter and then waived off the team. And then what was it? They had. Baker Mayfield shaved 3 different times yesterday. He shaved, when you look at it on Twitter, it's like 3 different times. Well, what do you guys think about? And then the shoes or the cleats where they OBJ and they got. I mean, these guys are not thinking about football, and if they're not thinking about football, that's why they're playing below the talent level. I don't think Kitchens makes it out of the year.
I would agree with that. The pictures of Mayfield from the day he got drafted to yesterday, it just looks like this guy is like, get me out of here. I'm in Cleveland, and now I get why this team has never won.
It's like the little thing we look at Jimmy Carter's president, or any president. The president gets in there 2 or 3 years, and they age like that. And yet, in Cleveland, you could do it in 10 times the speed that you do in the presidency. Yeah. It's tougher being the Cleveland quarterback than being the president of the United States.
It's crazy. It was bad. 24-19, Cleveland falls to 2-6. All right, Chargers. We know the Chargers always come charging back second half of the season. That's when they always make their run. Do they have the pieces in place to get back in the AFC playoff picture? They beat a good Packers team handily yesterday.
They did. The Packers have some weaknesses. They're not very good stopping the run, and they have some other weaknesses. And the Chargers just needed to start the year. Somebody needed to tell their team in week 1, you guys are 0-4. They would have been fine because they have to get their backs up against the wall to play that well. It doesn't speak well for their coaches that the coaches can't get them to play tougher. But again, Green Bay, I think that's the big story, is that they have they do very well in certain ways, but there are ways that you can beat them, and running the ball is one of them. If they don't get their run defense in check, that's going to be a real weakness for them in the playoffs.
NFL Insider KC Joyner breaking down Week 9, final one, Sunday night. We saw the Ravens, I picked them outright, and I didn't think they'd win this dominating, but what was special about what the Ravens did to the Patriots? And now, what do we learn about the Patriots the first time they really had to step up in competition?
Step up in competition, they don't come anywhere near stepping up in competition. Hey, Marquise Brown didn't have a big game. You look at the ground game; they didn't let Jackson run for a lot of yards, but you can run the ball on them. And in fact, that's been a problem in the past couple of years. They rank very badly in my good blocking rate metric because they don't handle power teams. It's a funny thing on offense; they like to be a power team, but they can't handle them on defense. And they keep coming back to that in the NFL today. There's so many teams that are realizing we need to go power run heavy, and that's going to be a problem for the Patriots because they'll either face it in the playoffs or if they get to the Super Bowl, they're going to find a power rushing team that they can't handle.
All right, let's look at tonight's Monday night matchup. It's Cowboys 4-3, the Giants 2-6. Dallas coming off of a bye. The Giants have had a 4-game losing streak, which, look, this team had a little optimism the way that Daniel Brown played, or Daniel Jones, Daniel Brown. I'm going back a couple of years, right? Daniel Jones played, but that has kind of fallen by the wayside recently. So what do you see in this matchup tonight?
That is, and I'd like to see what Jones could do if he had a good receiving core, if he had a healthy receiving core. Shepard's out again. It looked like he was coming back, and now he's not. They just don't. I mean, they've got Ingram, and Ingram will probably have a big night tonight, but the rest of the receiving cores were good. And Barkley doesn't match up well against the Cowboys' red-rated run defense. And the Cowboys, by the way, they're facing, I've got the Giants rated as a green-rated run defense, so I think that Elliott's going to have a huge contest. So if the Cowboys don't win this by at least 10 points, I'd be shocked.
I'm not going to try to put you on the spot. However, any free agent wide receiver not named Antonio Brown that you know off the top of your head that you would say, that guy might work in Philadelphia?
People keep saying Jordan Matthews or something like, guys, let's just, no, I really wouldn't. Take who you've got on your roster and try and develop them because you brought them in for a reason. I don't know that I would go for, and again, I would stay away from Antonio Brown 100 days, or 100 times out of 100. Just, he's not a guy you want on that team at all. That locker room can't handle him.
All right, you stick with what you got and what you got moving forward. Casey's talked about in the beginning, a power running type of team. We'll see what Doug Peterson draws up. The Eagles have the bye. We'll preview Week 10 on Friday with KC Joyner right here on the Sports Pass. Thank you, pal.
Appreciate it.
KC Joyner, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.